Donald Trump, cricket tragic?
Obviously. Why wouldn't he be?
Life-changing amounts of money for these players, right?
I guess it's a very unlike New Zealand situation.
Hello and welcome to The Scoop, the global cricket show from Wisden. I'm your host, Phil Walker, and I'm joined by Anjali Doshi here at Lord's as we swagger into our second episode so far on The Scoop. On this week's show, is cricket in New Zealand imploding in on itself? Does Donald Trump even know what cricket is? What do Man United's owners want from cricket? And we tell you the origin story of a Sri Lankan megastar. But first, we want to thank you for the kind support from the first episode that you sent our way. We had lots of lovely comments. Our producer, Will, has been hoarding them. And thanks ever so much for getting involved. Do keep them coming along with your questions, but do also go easy on us. We're very fragile. Thanks ever so much for your support. Do subscribe to Wisden Cricket and keep them coming. Now, on to the here and now. Anjali Doshi. We gave it the big one for India, Pakistan, and rather true to form, it rather let us down.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, really. There was so much of hype around the game because of all the sort of politicking and Pakistan pulling out. And then, of course, the record is 16-1 in T20 and ODI World Cups to India. So it's a bit of a shame that the cricket on the field doesn't live up to the hype of the field. But very sadly, it points to obviously a decline in Pakistan cricket in general. And of course, Surya Kumar Yadav's comments have resurfaced from after the Asia Cup final in September, where he says, you can't really call this a rivalry anymore. So he's really roasting Pakistan there.
Well, I mean, the numbers are fair, but then
yes.
The fly in the ointment could be that they may yet meet again somewhere down the line.
Yes, they may yet meet again, and hopefully this time around it won't be about political point scoring, and there'll be some actual action that fans can look forward to, because 30,000 fans traveled to Colombo to watch this game, Indian and Pakistani fans, and paid a small fortune for their tickets. So you hope they'd see better action on the field.
Yeah. Talking of action on the field, it's been the story of the emergent nations really for the last week and a half in this tournament. It's been fabulous to see Nepal and Italy come through, among many others. We even saw this morning the emergence of a 19-year-old opening the batting for Canada. Tell us about him.
Named after his namesake, his hero, Yuvraj Singh. So this is Yuvraj Singh Samra. Mm-hmm. His dad is a massive cricket fan, grew up in Canada, dreams of playing franchise cricket around the world. He says he wants to play, he would love to play for the Mumbai Indians in the IPLs. Mumbai Indians, are you listening?
Yeah, no doubt. And the youngest in history to make 100.
19, just 19. And of course, he's the second centurion of the T20 World Cup. We're going to talk about the first one a little later on the show. Incredible performance.
Well, this is it. While Yuvraj did make a late dash to become our player of the moment, we did hold fire. We stuck to our guns. We'll be revealing who that player is later on in the show and what a story he has, by the way. But before we get to all of that, we're going to head down to New Zealand to talk to Paul Ford, Beige Brigade founder and institution, chronicler of all things New Zealand cricket. Paul, thanks for joining us. A nice gentle question to get you going. Is domestic cricket in New Zealand falling in on itself? What's going on here?
Yeah, well, I guess it's a very unlike New Zealand situation. We're normally pretty chilled out, pretty serene. And, this is a period of tumultuousness that seems to have invaded our game, and it needs to be sorted out pronto.
So what's going on?
Well, you've basically got a NZ20 league being proposed, which has been happening behind the scenes between the Players Association, with the six major associations here, the six domestic cricket associations that effectively appoint the New Zealand board. And then you have that proposal needs to go through, all of the stakeholders and then go up to New Zealand Cricket to be approved by the board so that they can say, yeah, we want to bring in private ownership. We want to kick off a franchise model. We want to reinvigorate the domestic T20 league that's there at the moment. And that requires New Zealand Cricket Board to sign it off. Now, depending on your point of view, that's either a vision of Armageddon and Day of Reckoning as New Zealand cricket loses control and succumbs to money and player power, or it's a natural evolution, a natural progression, and a necessary change as New Zealand gets off its island and becomes the final test playing nation to kick off its own proper, commercially viable T20 franchise competition.
Paul, how much of an audience do you think New Zealand will have? They already have a domestic, you spoke about the Super Smash, the population is just 5.5 million, thereabouts. Do you think the grounds are going to be full? There's going to be a real audience for franchise cricket?
Look, I think at the moment, there's not a heck of a lot of effort that's been put into it. There's not a lot of money to splash around on the domestic T20 competition. So I think if we can set something up that has got a bit more vim, a bit more vigour and a bit more money to throw around and attract fans, yes, I do think people will get off their bums and get along and support these new franchises. We've seen it with the Auckland Warriors in the NRL. We've seen it with a couple of football teams that we've got in the A-League. It's not like New Zealanders don't want to go out and watch cricket or watch sport. They just want to make sure that there's enough rock stars out there to get them out of their lounges and onto the embankments. But at the end of the day, this competition needs to have a broadcast deal. It needs to be appealing to international markets too. And I think that's where we've really, undersold the appeal of New Zealand. It's a high integrity market for investment. It's a fantastic place to come and play cricket in summer for 4 weeks. And I think lots of our international players would be very keen to stay home for Christmas, stay home for the big summer period, catch up with all their mates, get all their buddies from the international cricketing scene down to New Zealand to experience a bit of Queenstown, a bit of Tauranga, and a bit of Auckland and a bit of Wellington, and get out to some of the holiday hotspots and just bring a bit more energy back, because it feels like at the moment New Zealand cricket's kind of given up on the domestic comp. It's just a development competition.
I agree with you. I think there's no better place in the world to watch cricket. I'm saying that at Lord's, so I should really hold my fire here. But, New Zealand is just stunning. But Richard Hadley, the legend, has spoken about the growing dysfunction within the New Zealand cricket family. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, there's been quite because things have been happening behind the scenes, it's been interesting seeing the information kind of leak out through background briefings with media. There was a source inside New Zealand cricket that described the league at one point as a rebel league, which created quite a few problems. Obviously, it's not. New Zealand cricket have to sign off on it, but I think that word got up to the ICC, so there had to be letters that were written in that direction. Yes, you're right. Richard Hadley, Sir Richard Hadley, Stephen Bock, the president of New Zealand Cricket, Leslie Murdoch, and former CEO Martin Sneddon wrote a letter to all of the stakeholders in the game saying, hey, you guys need to stop arguing. You need to get around the table and you need to sort this out, because this dysfunction is not good for the game. And I think that's right. There is definitely I think people that care about cricket in New Zealand don't want to see this things fracturing. We want to see them being united, and we want to see something fantastic emerge. But the thing is, we can't keep going the way we're going. There's no TV deal for the Super Smash, the domestic competition, next summer. It's been going for 20 years. It's time for a reset one way or another.
Just finally, Paul, to the here and now. Black Cap's going pretty well. My boy Rachin Ravindra in the runs this morning, I see, making light work of that game against Canada. How far do you think you can go?
Oh, I think we'll win. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I know we've got to be optimistic. No, look, I think it's going to be tricky. Our Super 8 games in Sri Lanka, and Mitchell Santner's looking like a bit dodgy. Ashodi's been a bit scratchy, so I think we're going to be very reliant on our spinners. But look, we're quietly confident in that very understated skeletons in the closet New Zealand way. You're right. Lovely to see Ravindra in the runs. He is a bit of a Chennai superhero, and he did it again today. I think we would be very nervous if we hadn't dropped a match against South Africa. I think we like to see us just get just slip under the radar and then rampage through the Super 8 and into the semi-final.
Rachin Ravindra, possessor of the finest hairstyle and down on one knee square drive in all of the world game. Thank you so much, Paul, as ever, for joining us. We'll be tapping back into you, no doubt, in the next week or two. Thanks for joining us. William, what's our social media scoop of the week?
Okay, so our social media scoop for this episode is, we'll watch the video now.
Slovakia.
If you could swap for a day with another athlete in another sport for the day, who would it be and why?
God, that's so good. I think I'd like to be a quarterback, actually. In fact, no, yeah, cricket. I'd swap with Ben Stokes.
Okay, so we had Jude Bellingham there, one of England's best footballers at the minute. Take that how you will. And he would quite like to swap with Ben Stokes for a day in the life. What do you reckon about that?
Well, straight away, any footballer who even knows what cricket is, in England in particular, is a tick for our game.
It's impressive.
Yeah, we are desperate, gagging for that kind of validity. So that's great to see first up.
We are, and I think you wouldn't see Jude Bellingham even watching cricket. I didn't put two and two together.
His face really lit up when he remembered that cricket exists.
Brilliant. So
That was great.
Just on that, I wanted to ask you both: what athlete would you like to swap a day in your life with? Angeli, we'll start with you.
Okay, if you'd asked me this question last year, I would have said Serena Williams. 23 singles Grand Slam titles, 14 doubles, incredible athlete,
Arguably
amazing.
the GOAT of female tennis.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
tennis in general.
Greatest of all time, tennis in general, not even women's tennis. Amazing. But then she started endorsing weight loss drugs.
I saw
and
that.
I just can't reconcile to an athlete and the message that sends out to women and girls all around the world. So I'm going to have to change my answer to my other hero, and that's Simone Biles, the gymnast.
Yes.
Incredible
She's
athlete.
fantastic.
11 Olympic medals, including 7 golds.
Yeah.
30 World Championship medals. Phenomenal story. She was in foster care for several years in her childhood, eventually adopted by her granddad, spoken very openly about mental health, and pulled out of the 2020 Olympics when she felt the pressure and she couldn't cope with it. So she's been really honest about her struggles as well. So all around, I think she's incredible.
That's a great choice. I reckon she'd be a good little cricketer as well, to be honest, given the chance.
Really good, like gully, backward point,
Backward point, absolute dynamite in the field, I reckon, as well.
Yeah, that's just her areas.
Yeah. What about you, Phil? Who would you like to swap with?
Have you ever heard of Luca Bracell?
Nope.
Have you heard of Luca
No.
Bracell?
It's probably some old
Here we
thing.
go. He's quite young, actually.
Oh, great.
He's younger than you. He's the world snooker champion from 2023.
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh,
Right. Belgian.
Right.
Not a big hotspot for snook.
Was he 17 when he won it?
He was 17. Almost really good. He was
Yes.
17 when he played in the World Championships,
Right.
the youngest ever player.
Yeah.
But he won it a few years later as a young lad still. And he won it despite flying back to Amsterdam to see his mates midway through the tournament and only getting back for his semi-final with about 10 minutes to go.
Oh, wow.
He says he's not attached to winning. He's not even particularly fussed about that. He just wants to go out there and play. He wants to spend time with his girl and his mates.
That sounds like he'd fit into baseball quite well.
He can pot them off the chandeliers. He can play like a god, but he's not wedded to it. That's my kind of sports person.
I like that.
And I would just like to swap for one day to know what it's like to be able to play the other beautiful game, which is snooker. Just to get a sense of what it's like to play like that, just for a few hours, that would be amazing to me. So
Very good.
It's Luca, the Belgian bullet for me.
The Belgian bullet.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that was your social media scoop of the episode.
So my inside scoop for today is that the co-owners of Manchester United are looking to buy an IPL team. There's 2 IPL teams up for grabs, Royal Challengers Bengaluru and Rajasthan Royals, and the Glazers, who co-own Man United, are in the market. So they actually tried buying an IPL team 4 years ago as well, when the IPL expanded to 10 teams and the Gujarat Titans and the Lucknow Super Giants came in. But at that point, their bid was too low. This time as well, they have really stiff competition because there are 7 other bidders for RCB and 4 for Rajasthan Royals. The Glazer family have quite a history, actually, associated with sport. They own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the NFL team. In 2005, of course, they added Manchester United. They've also bought the Desert Vipers, an IL T20 team in the UAE League. And now, of course, they tried to buy a team in the 100 as well, and that didn't quite work out. But this time around, they seem to be quite keen. And RCB are being valued at 1.3 billion. and the Rajasthan Royals at about 900 million. So it's quite interesting. He clearly sees that there's a massive appetite for cricket. India's got the biggest population in the world at nearly 1.5 billion. There's a massive diaspora in America. So therefore, the sort of growing interest in cricket, clearly an expanding market. I was reading something about the forecast for revenue forecast for IPL teams 5 years from now it says that it's going to be more than double. So he's obviously trying to latch on to a good thing.
So while the IPL is now the second most lucrative tournament in the world, sports tournament in the world, the NFL remains, of course, the big dog, but perhaps not in the heart, if that's the right word, of President Donald Trump, who took to social media, to his own social media site recently to post his support for the US cricket team, conspicuously didn't mention the Super Bowl at any other point.
Well, ever since Bad Bunny performed on the Super Bowl, he's off it. He doesn't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah. So we're joined by Peter Della Penna, US cricketing sage, I would say. Peter, thanks for joining us. Donald Trump, cricket tragic?
Obviously. Why wouldn't he be?
So what's going on here then?
Well, he's clearly found a new attachment at this late stage in life, and it's never too late, I guess, to become a cricket tragic, Phil. And it was on the morning of the Super Bowl, U.S. time, that he sent out this post on Truth Social, and it got copied and reposted. That the genesis of it was the U.S. ambassador to India, Sergio Gore, attended the USA-India match on the opening night of the T20 World Cup. And that's a pretty big deal. I've been covering USA around the world, and I can only remember a handful of occasions where an ambassador has come to watch USA in person. Outside of that, it's very rare to get this kind of public support. And so the fact that the ambassador to India was there, and again, this isn't Joe Schmo. Sergio Gore, if you followed his feed over the course of the match, he was taking pictures with the Ambanis. He was rubbing shoulders with Jay Shah. I mean, he was very integrated in the scene of that night. And so then he took the picture with the USA team, and that got shared to officials back in the US. And then Trump or somebody associated with Trump's team put it out on Truth Social. And then, like a lot of things that happen with Trump, you might have put it on Truth Social, but it gets copied and reshared and reposted everywhere else. And the imprint and the magnification of his message to the USA team is quite extraordinary. I don't think there's anything come close to it in recent times in terms of the amount of positive publicity that generated specifically for American cricket.
But more generally, away from the Donald, this has been a significant couple of weeks, right, for US cricket?
Again, just the exposure, getting a chance to play in front of India. They had that opportunity in New York in 2024, and all that publicity that generated, and USA playing in front of 30,000 fans in New York. Again, they're used to playing in front of 30 fans. It's the proverbial, the guy and his dog at the cricket ground watching USA. And that was a rare occasion in 2024. That was replicated on opening night in Mumbai. So to have that exposure, and not just to be there and be kind of the token participant, they played India very tough. And I think they gained a lot of respect for people around the cricket world. They played India very tough in New York as well. But I think people kind of poo-pooed that match because that pitch was just so derided in New York. And I think a lot of people felt like, oh, well, USA was only competitive in that match because it was played on a garbage wicket, and that helped reduce the gap between the two sides. You can't really argue the same in India when India is playing it on home soil in their home conditions, and USA played them very tough. And if it hadn't been for a couple drop chances, the most significant one, Suryakumar Yadav being dropped early in his innings, USA very may well have sprung an opening night upset. But just again, to stand toe-to-toe with India the way they did was mighty impressive. I think they gained the respect from a lot of people in the cricket world.
The fact that cricket is really growing in the US, it's a really great story, isn't it?
I think the greatest part of USA's journey in this World Cup, and when you mention the word growth, I look at the example of Sanjay Krishnamurti and Sai Mukamala. They're the only two homegrown players in the squad, and they produced the 2 highest individual scores for USA in this tournament. Both of them made half centuries in wins for USA over the Netherlands and Namibia. And the fact that historically you look at the composition of USA squads, and not to denigrate them at all, but Saurav Netravalkar being the hero in 2024 and Andries House, they represent the status quo of USA cricket selection over the course of several decades, where they've relied on and depended on former first-class players from India, Pakistan, South Africa, Jamaica, Guyana to come in and qualify on residency or through migration patterns. They've made up the bulk of not only USA squads, but the top performers in USA squads over the years. By extension, seeing what Yuvraj Samra did for Canada as well, the only homegrown player in the Canada squad, born and raised in Brampton, Ontario, scoring the first ever century by an associate player in the T20 World Cup. Those are the things that will give inspiration to youngsters in Canada and the USA going forward.
Just very briefly, Peter, I'm going to give this my best shot. The bowler of the tournament so far, with a US shirt on his back, Estelle Vasudevan. Thank you. Tell me, 13 wickets, far and away the most prolific wicket taker in the tournament up to date. Talk me through him, just briefly for us. What's his story and how good is he?
That name just rolled so beautifully off your tongue, Phil.
Yeah, sure.
Estelle
Been working on it all morning.
He wasn't practicing, I promise.
The most remarkable thing about his story in this World Cup is the fact that he probably wasn't even going to play had it not been for the injury sustained by the vice-captain Jesse Singh 48 hours before the start of the tournament. Estelle Vasudevan was kind of a fringe player in 2024 when he made his debut for USA, played 4 matches in that World Cup journey when they went to the Super 8s, didn't take a single wicket. This time around, he was expected to be on the bench. Jesse Singh was going to be leading the USA onto the field as vice-captain along with Ali Khan and Saurav Netravalkar. Jesse Singh tries to take a diving catch against New Zealand in the last warm-up match for USA, lands on his shoulder, injures his shoulder, ruled out for the tournament, and that opens the door for Estelle Vasudevan to come into the starting 11. And how? 13 wickets, back-to-back 4 for 25 performances against India and Pakistan at 37 years young. He's looking far younger than his age would indicate, and it's one of the great stories of this World Cup. Somebody who was a journeyman cricketer in South Africa. He was a consistent performer on the first-class scene prior to migrating to the U.S., but he never got an opportunity in the national team. He was always a very consistent performer, though, in first-class cricket in South Africa, and for him to get the rewards of somebody who's worked hard for 15 years is really pleasing to see.
Yeah, well said. It's a beautiful story. Something is stirring, no doubt, in American cricket. Peter Della Penna, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back to see you soon enough, no doubt about it. Meanwhile, William.
Hello.
Hello. What is our reverse scoop question of the week? Now, just to clarify, we go out into the world and we ask the greats of social media to throw us a question.
Yep.
Flipping the tables back on us. What have you got this week?
So this week is obviously T20 World Cup associated. And there's a great question that was asked. And I'll have to give you a little bit of context, but I'll ask the question first. Should the ICC expand the number of nations playing in the T20 World Cup? Just a bit of context. There's currently 20 teams playing, but previously there was 12 teams. And then from 2014 onwards, it went to 16 teams. And from 2024 to now, there's 20 teams. So should there be more? Should there be less? What do you guys reckon?
What do you reckon, Angela?
I think it's a good amount. I mean, what's been incredible has been, just seeing the associate nations and seeing just the stories from players playing for Nepal, Italy, the US, as we just heard from Peter. So I think that's been a really great story. Namibia, great to see so much representation. Great to see that the tournament's growing. But we're yet to see an associate actually beating a full member nation. Now, the thing is, they're only going to get, this seems to be their only kind of source of exposure.
Yeah.
So it's a really tricky one because you want to find the balance between a tournament that's competitive, but also encourages more nations to kind of take to cricket.
Exactly. it is a fine line between allowing the tournament to breathe on its own terms and to have integrity and spreading the game. This is the right platform to spread the game. T20 cricket is the most accessible out there, of course, and it's the game that emergent nations can really get their teeth into. But at the same time, you don't want to devalue what has become a central plank in the whole ecosystem of the game. So my instinct would say that 20 is about right. It's been heading north up until this point. As you say, the last two have now been 20 teams. I would like to think that in the fullness of time, 5 to 10 years down the line, then we could expand again. But I think this is about right as it stands, because there are very few one-sided games, or very few groups that feel done before it begins. And while we haven't yet had a real emergent nation break into that top 8,
we've seen some of them running them close.
Very close indeed. So I think the balance is probably about right now.
In the sweet spot.
Yeah, I would say so.
Brilliant. Cool, and that was your Reverse Scoop Q&A of the episode. Remember to send in your questions and yours might get read out on the next episode.
So we debated in the office about our player of the moment, and there were a few good candidates out there, but we could not ignore Pathum Nissanka, one of the best knocks, purest knocks I think I've ever seen in this format. 100 not out last night to down Australia.
First century of this T20 World Cup.
Yeah, 50 odd balls, 56 balls, I think. Purity of shot was just off the charts, really. But you don't need to hear from us about this, because we've got Estelle Vasudevan joining us, who is, I think, in transit. Is that right? Having been at the game last night. Estelle, thanks for joining us. Tell us everything about last night and the new megastar of Sri Lankan cricket.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say about last night? He bossed that chase, didn't he? Right from the word go. I don't think there was any point where he looked like he was in trouble. And I think going into this game, there was a bit of concern about how Sri Lanka would face someone like Adam Zampa. I know the Australian attack was quite weakened by the loss of Hazelwood and Cummins, but the way he handled the spinners and the way he handled that chase, I think, was spectacular. Pathum Nissanka has been on the rise for the last couple of years, right? And I think one notable thing about him is that he's one of the most hardworking cricketers that I've seen. If you look at how he's gone about his kind of career, he started off very humble beginnings. His dad was a grounds boy in Kalutara, and his mom used to sell flowers outside the temple in the city, right? So he came from very, very low income, comes from a very low income background, but having gotten an opportunity to come to Colombo, he just went from strength to strength. And I don't know about how much the viewers know about the Sri Lankan schools cricket system, but it's very, very big, right? And a lot of these players like Kusal Mendis were, spoken about 4 or 5 years before they made it into a club team, right? Pathum Nissanka was not one of those guys. He was someone who kind of quietly, just like he's done in international cricket, quietly was getting the job done for his teams, whatever teams he represented, and then kind of made it big in schools cricket, and we've seen that in international cricket as well.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And he also took that brilliant catch of Glenn Maxwell at backward point after he dropped him just in the previous over, and he said he was really upset about that. It was what was phenomenal to watch was just not his knock, but also, like you said, the backstory. And now he's going to be playing the next edition of the IPL. He's been picked up by Delhi Capitals for £400,000. So a great story there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is life-changing amounts of money for these players, right? Particularly as I explained, the background he comes from. I should say there's a story that. So once he was done with his schooling, it was very difficult for him to kind of make ends meet in Colombo, and you have to be in Colombo if you want to take cricket seriously, right? And there was a company that came forward to actually help him financially, and it's a company that supplies flowers for funerals. So it's kind of a really unique kind of story in the Sri Lankan context. where you've got like all these players coming with big sponsors behind them, and this guy whose early club career was sponsored by someone supplying flowers, funeral services. So I think the feel good factor is huge with someone like Pathum Nissanka. And as I mentioned, one of the most hardworking cricketers out there. I think his upbringing, the hardships he went through as a child and as a young adult, have kind of prepared him to do the hard yards, and that's why we're seeing the success he's had over the last couple of.
Perfect. Estelle, thank you so much as ever for joining us. Anjali, Nissanka, one of the stars of the show, the 120 he made at the Oval a couple of years ago in that Test match chase, that was a real graduation knock for him, really, a really kind of coming out kind of knock, and he's just been irresistible since. And it's great to see, isn't it? Because Sri Lankan cricket has been perhaps slightly in the doldrums in the last few years, post those greats retiring, Sangha, Mahela, etc. And so it's great to see them coming back again.
Yes, and England fans will remember him from that Oval run chase where he scored a century. I think it was 67 in the first innings, century in the second innings. So, yeah, I mean, it's great for, especially as you mentioned, with Sri Lanka slightly in the doldrums, to have an all-format player who's just doing so well and has an incredible work ethic.
Yeah, exactly that. One of the stars of the tournament. A tournament that continues to roll along. It's been a joy to watch. We're getting to the business end of it now with the Super 8s. Things are starting to settle down a little bit. And one of the questions that we're almost near to answering is Australia's future in it. Now, they are hanging by their fingernails,
in the laps of the gods, as Mitchell Marsh said.
Indeed. By the time this comes out, we may know definitively if they are out. But as it stands, they are just about hanging in there. But it's not been their tournament up to now.
No, and actually, if you look at their record in T20 World Cups, they've only won one title. They're clearly the champions, absolute gods of 50-over cricket and the 50-over World Cups, but they haven't enjoyed quite the same level of success in T20 World Cup.
Well, even when they won it, they didn't mean to, did they? They basically picked their test team and ended up winning it anyway because they're Australia. Yeah, so we shall see. We shall see. But at the moment, it's looking like it will be Zimbabwe to join Sri Lanka from that group. It's been compelling stuff. Okay, that's all for today's episode. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Peter and to Paul and to Estelle and to Anjali and to Will and to Anantha, and mainly to yourselves for watching along with us. Please do subscribe to Wisden Cricket's YouTube channel and leave us a nice, gentle, well-meaning comment. Keep your more aggressive comments to yourself if you can. And look, we'll be back on Friday for some more weird and wonderful stories from Planet Cricket. Here's to the team and to this T20 World Cup, which continues to enthrall. We'll be back Friday. See you then.